Explore a captivating compilation video where each moment unveils a new dimension of the extraordinary. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for rejecting a dinner after mother-in-law insulted me at son's funeral? I lost my son to congenital heart disease, and he did not survive the open heart surgery at the age of 1 year and 6 months. He was the greatest blessing I had in my life. Everyone kept telling me things would get easier with time. I know that no matter how much time goes by, I'll still be missing my baby and everything sweet about him. My mother-in-law and I were in constant conflict. Things have always been bad between us, but in those months we reached our limit. She kept getting involved in my son's treatment and criticized every decision I made, claiming I didn't know how to handle my son's illness. We went into low contact, but she kept causing issues occasionally. My husband was torn between our son's illness and his mother's issues. When my son passed away, she came to the funeral and caused a scene by arguing with me, knowing I had no energy for it. She used the fact that everyone was there so she could say it was my fault my son was born sick and I didn't take care of him properly, that I didn't listen to her when suggested other ways to treat his condition, and that I was the one who took their grandchild away from them and caused them heartache. She then loudly called me a bad mother. I had no idea how I kept my composure and kept standing on both feet. My mom and sisters responded by telling her to leave. My husband was sitting down crying. She then went to tell everyone I kicked her out as a way to hurt her further and lied that I convinced my husband to ban her from visiting her grandson's grave. My husband later sent his side of the family an email talking about my mother-in-law's behavior during and after our son's illness, and telling them he no longer would be seeing her. That had the family criticizing us, saying the mother-in-law was just trying to do what was best for her grandbaby and called us selfish for assuming we were the only ones struggling with this tragedy. We haven't seen his mom in 1 year and 8 months. I'm now 3 months pregnant. No one knew, only my sister-in-law, brother-in-law's wife, but word got out. Though we told her not to say anything, a week later I had family members saying I was invited to a dinner hosted by my mother-in-law so she could apologize in front of the whole family and settle this issue before the baby was born. They said the in-law was regretful and offered to financially provide for her grandbaby, and they wanted to see that. I refused, but my husband surprisingly wanted me to go. I had his grandparents calling me, telling me that I'm a person with a good heart and forgiveness is something I'm capable of giving. I told them I'd never be sitting at the same table with the person who called me a bad mother at my child's funeral. I still remember it vividly to this very day. My sister said this change of heart from my mother-in-law is probably for the new baby. It could be, but I insisted I won't come. They're saying I'm making it hard for everyone to move on and past this unresolved pain and should go. Yeah, I'm sorry. The person who posted this is not making it hard. The person who made it hard was the mother-in-law at the funeral saying just some unforgivable things. And not to say that she couldn't be forgiven. If this poster wanted to forgive the mother-in-law, that's up to them. But I think it's well within their right to be upset, to go through one of the most tragic things I think a person could go through in their entire life, to lose a child. And at that young age and everything, like, that is something that I don't think that she will ever be able to forget. That is one of the biggest tragedies you can experience. And then to top that off with the mother-in-law blaming her loudly at the funeral and stuff, I'm sorry, I don't care if that mother-in-law really did believe all that. You don't say that to a parent grieving the loss of their child. That is monstrous. And so, yeah, I don't blame this person for being like, no, I don't want to forgive her. I don't want to be around her. Like, clearly this mother-in-law is just like, ooh, finally, another grandkid. I want to be part of this one. Like, it's not that she genuinely feels bad about that. It's that she wants to have another chance with a grandkid. And sure, I don't blame her for that. And maybe she is regretful. Maybe she does want to make amends, but it's not her choice to make at this point. And she has no right to be upset if this person doesn't want to forgive her. This mother-in-law did a terrible thing, and she has to live with the consequences. Story 2. Petty revenge on a cheating ex sending DMs after he got cheated on. So this happened 7 years ago, but I had an ex-boyfriend, R, who sent me a Facebook request and messages over 3 years after we broke up. R cheated on me, his stepmother stole $600 from me, and he was a mooch. He did not chip in on rent and utilities. I, on the other hand, was a spineless people-pleaser who had a hard time saying no and often got taken advantage of. I'm also a single mom, and my kid was a toddler. R got a girlfriend from one of his back-burner stacks of chicks he was cheating on me with immediately after breaking up with me because he was unhappy. I didn't speak to him for 3 years or more, and suddenly he DMs me and friend requests me on Facebook. His girlfriend that had been all but wiping his butt for him had a side piece that she left R for. I had changed in the years we didn't speak. I don't take this nonsense lying down. I chose petty revenge. R worked nights. This will be important later. I solicited numerous friends to send me pictures of their middle fingers and memes. I got too many to just flood his page. Cue YouTube. I made a 5-minute video of memes and middle fingers set to Pink Guy's song STFU. I waited until I knew R was asleep. I lived for him for 3 years and knew his patterns. That's when I added him and posted my creation on R's Facebook and my Facebook with a tag. R woke up late in the day and replied to one on his page and said he deserved it. I was up for at least 8 hours. R paid me some of the money he owed me, not all of it. As soon as he got a new girlfriend, he was back to schlepping. So I got some money back, R was humbled, and he will never darken my doorstep again for fear of public humiliation. I mean, yeah, that honestly seems pretty dang fair, and I applaud. This is, I think, some appropriate revenge to be gotten on this person. And as far as R, yeah, he kind of needs to be humbled and clearly needs to learn some lessons, you know? If you're going to be a cheater and kind of scuzzy and mooch off of people and all that stuff, those things eventually come back to bite you in the rear end, you know? You can't just be a crappy person all the time and get away with it. I mean, unless you're rich, I guess, you know, or politician or whatever, but for the rest of us, you can't. The rest of us can't do that. The rest of us have to try and be good to other people, and then hopefully good things will happen in our life, but not always, but sometimes. Look, I'm just going to take solace in knowing that this person got a little something they deserved and hopefully learned a lesson, okay? I need to believe in karma. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for refusing to be in my father's wedding even though I cheated too? A story as old as time. My 27 female father, 50, cheated on my mother for 5 years with a younger woman, currently 32. And he left my mother when mistress got pregnant. It tore our family apart. I resent my father because my mother actually loved him and she is still dealing with this. Even 1 year after he left, I stayed on okay terms with him because I was the one to pick up and drop off my younger brother at his place. Last week when I picked up my brother, my father had big news. He proposed to his girlfriend and wanted me as his best man. It made me kinda mad, not gonna lie, but I kept calm and told him no. He said that what happened between him and Mom was none of our business and that I should respect his new relationship. I said I respect it, but it doesn't mean I condone it. Obviously, I would never hound him randomly about it, but I don't approve of it, and I don't like her. She knew the whole time my mom and we existed. Well, my dad was having none of it, and told me to get off my high horse because I had cheated too, and I had no right. And I guess, when I was 17, I was with this boy for 3 months. I went to a party, got crap-faced, and made out with a classmate for a total of 10 minutes. I felt so bad that I called my boyfriend crying, and we talked it out. We broke up. I told my dad, and in 10 years, I never did something like that again. I have been with my partner for 5 years. I told him he could not equate it at all. He called me a hypocrite, and that he was glad to know who I am. Driving home, I felt like I was a bit harsh. He's still my father, and he is not a bad father. I just don't want to be at his wedding. I would still go, but am I the a-hole? No. I do not think that you're the a-hole. You are under no obligation to be the best woman at his wedding. Because, yeah, what he did was sleazy. Like, cheating for, what, 5 years, I think it said, or whatever? And the whole time this other person knew about it? And it's only a year after divorcing the mom that he's now announcing this new wedding? I don't know. It feels rushed, and you're allowed to feel that way. You do not have to forgive him for every little thing or just be okay with him, be like, yeah, I'll be in that. No. And his trying to be like, well, you cheated too. There's a lot that's telling me that your dad is a pretty immature person in a number of ways and maybe needs to grow up a little bit, because that does not hold water whatsoever. I'm sorry. Story 2. My husband wants a paternity test, and I don't think we can recover from this. I'm sorry if this is rambling, but I don't even know what to think about this situation. Me, 32 female, and my husband, 34 male, have been together for 12 years and married for 6. We have a 2-year-old daughter, and I'm 9 weeks pregnant. We've struggled with getting pregnant both times, 4 years for our daughter and 1.5 years for this pregnancy. We know that he does have a lower sperm count than average, but there was nothing else that had been noted as a barrier. This time, I had started a position as a social worker in an emergency department, and I absolutely love it. But I see things that no one else should see on bad days. I don't want intercourse, which I think makes sense, and I'm sometimes late from work, never more than 2 hours. My husband also left on a boys' vacation for a few days around the time I got pregnant. Something happened on this vacation, and his mental health has been horrible since. Not sleeping, easily agitated, and everyone else on the trip says that something went wrong, but we're not sure what happened. Now, I have a positive test. I'm so excited. I can't wait to tell him. The day after I tell him, he then accuses me of the baby not being his. I must have cheated instead of being at work late. I must have gone to a sperm bank because I wanted a child so badly. He wants a paternity test, and oh yeah, he tested our daughter because he now thinks she's not his either. I have never cheated, never wanted to. I don't know where this is coming from. I asked what he would do if the test came back that the children were both his, and he said, say I'm sorry and try to make it up to you. He has talked to multiple people about his concerns that I may have cheated, and they all tell him that I would never do that. Even his mother is telling him that he's out of line. I'm going to talk to my doc about the non-invasive blood test because I know that I have nothing to hide. We're also going to start couples therapy in a couple of weeks. He didn't participate last time we tried, but I have to at least try. But I don't know what to do. He tells me that he still loves me, but I don't believe him. Is this it? Is this the end of our relationship? Because I don't know how to come back from this now that I know he doesn't trust me at all. How do I handle this? All right. First things first, and this is not a blanket statement. This is not always true, but I feel with things that I've seen in the past from other people and stuff, that when one partner is suddenly really insistent that their other partner is cheating, that is sometimes a red flag for the fact that they've cheated and they're projecting their guilt, or at least they feel so guilty that they want to tell themselves well, it's because they're cheating on me, or they want to believe you're cheating, and so they'll feel less bad, well, I also cheated then, haha, we're even now. And again, it's not necessarily saying that's the case here at all, or in many of these cases, but I feel like it's enough of a flag to warrant concern. And the fact that you're trying couples therapy again, but he refused to participate last time is just, I don't know, how I wouldn't want to be with someone that didn't trust me and wasn't willing to go through that kind of stuff with me. That just feels like a real imbalance in a relationship that I personally find hard to, make add up in my head. So I don't know. If I was this person, I hope the couples therapy works out. I hope he can figure some things out, but just from the limited information I have, outlook not good. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not giving my ex the lingerie he bought me back? My boyfriend, 24 male, and I, 22 female, were together for 2.5 years. I broke up with him 2 months ago. There's still a lot of love, but I didn't like how he was treating me, amongst other things. We haven't been strictly any contact, but I have told him multiple times I don't want to talk or try friends for a while. Every, week he contacts me for one reason or another and ends up asking to have a conversation about why we broke up and why I didn't tell him that he was being a jerk, saying I didn't give us a fair chance. He usually asks to meet in person, and we talk for at least an hour or two. I feel like I've already said everything, and I get so depressed after these big talks, it's just exhausting. Anyways, that's the dynamic. I'm trying to move on and have him not be in my life. He keeps dragging me back. So, he bought me some lingerie from Shein like a month or two before the breakup. In his recent string of emails, he asked to talk and then asked for the lingerie back because he bought it so I'd wear it for him only. I responded, I'll throw them away, and he responded, why the F have you not thrown them away already? You already used them, huh? Which feels kind of weird to say. Then he said he doesn't trust that I'll throw it away because his ex was always lying. I told him I'm not comfortable with that and I'll throw it away. He just said he didn't trust me not to wear it and told me to meet him outside of class and give it back to him. I don't think I'm going to. The idea of giving it back to him makes me uncomfortable and I don't want to. This whole situation is starting to creep me out, and the fact that he's called me a couple of times on an unlisted number is also weirding me out. So on one hand, he keeps trying to be like, come on, let's talk, let's get back together, you know, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was being a jerk. And then he's also like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you at all. Give me back that gift that I gave you because I don't want you wearing it for anybody else because that's how gifts work. Like, he's got to realize, like, oh man, buddy, you need to do a little bit of growing up. You buy someone a gift when you're in a relationship, and once you've broken up, what they do with it, that's a whole nother thing. I'm certain there are some exceptions out there that people could come up with, and probably will in the comments. Go right ahead. They exist, I'm sure, but this is not one of them. If you buy someone lingerie because you wanted to see him in it, no, I'm sorry. You don't get to be like, give it back, like, no, grow up, get over it. Story 2. I attended a Halloween event and realized I need to divorce my husband. I think I need to divorce my husband. He did something pretty unforgivable. It happened 4 years ago, but I just found out about it. We've been together for over 12 years, married too. Well, I happened to see my niece at this event and of course stopped and chit-chatted with her. It somehow led to a whole thing where she finally told me later on the phone about something from a few years back. My husband made intimate advances toward her, a young adult at the time, and received oral favors from those advances at least twice. He tried for more and was turned down. Looking back, it was a very hyper-intimate time for him for some reason. He was also smoking a lot, which is probably related since that was part of him coercing oral from her. We have 3 young children. I haven't told him I know yet. He's at work until this evening. My world is about to implode, and I have to keep it together for my kids. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I don't know how to have this conversation. The housing market is upside down, and our rental is the last affordable one in the state, to be honest. I can't move out into anything better with my kids, and I'm not moving out without them. Honestly, if it were just a random person, I could probably find it in me to move past it, but this betrayal isn't random. He's known her since she was 15. What do I do? I wish I knew about it then because it would be so much easier to leave over something recent and so much harder for him to deny like I know he will. He tells me all the time, I don't deserve you. How do I tell him he's right? Oh, that is a really tough situation because, yeah, you haven't had a chance to, like, prepare money and finances for moving out on your own. You have been a stay-at-home mom because you've got 3 kids, you know, while he's provided and stuff, but you've been providing for the house, and that's where things like child support and all that come in, but it is not going to be a great process. It's going to be absolutely miserable. Most divorces, even some of the better ones, are not great, but to be going through it in the situation that this person is in really breaks my heart. And all I can say is, folks, if you find yourself in a situation like this, reach out to everyone that you can trust. Friends, family, build a support network. Because unfortunately, when you're just reliant on your significant other, that makes it hard to get out of a relationship if something like this happens. And so make sure that you've got those friends and family, and as tough as it might be, and as much as you might be asking of them, I think most of them are going to be more than willing to give of themselves to make sure this person's provided for, or at least I really hope that's the case. Story 3. Today I effed up by drinking too much and cheating on my girlfriend. I, 28 male, went out 5 months ago with a few new coworkers to drink. I got more drunk than I've ever been in my life and went home with who I thought at the time was my girlfriend. It wasn't until the oral intercourse that I realized it wasn't my girlfriend, but instead my coworker. At the time, I was still new at my job, so we didn't know each other too well. The person who I had gone home with was not aware that I was in a relationship. Although I feel slightly disgusted, I couldn't bring myself to completely blame her. As soon as I realized that it wasn't my girlfriend, I pushed her off and I left. Since I was confused and worried that I would lose my relationship with my then girlfriend, 25 female, I wanted some time to think, and I didn't let her know immediately. She's the love of my life. I always emphasize that a relationship between two people requires teamwork and has to always have open communication. This time, however, I was so worried about losing this relationship, and I also was conflicted internally about this, that I waited until today, 5 months after the event happened, to tell her about it. When I told her, she broke down crying. She thought about it for a while and decided that because it had taken me so long to tell her about it, she felt like everything since the event had made the relationship feel like a lie and found it hard to trust me after. She has called everything else within the relationship into question. While I do think I've made the right decision morally and I don't completely regret what I've done, it almost feels like I shouldn't have said anything. Broke it off and I feel like I'm now at rock bottom. I'm finding it hard to communicate with friends because many of them are within the same circle of friends. Boy, I am usually extremely hard on cheaters on this channel. And I'm not exactly going to be gentle with you, but more because of your mistake in hesitating to be open and communicate. If it truly was an accident, as you've said, which, I mean, you did choose to drink how you drank, and so you're not without any blame here. But if this truly was an accident, like you said, yeah, you should have talked about that right away, as scary as it is, and as much as you were afraid, you know, that it might hurt your relationship. Like, like you said, open communication is important, and unfortunately, not saying anything for that amount of time, yeah, I don't blame her for taking the path that she took, you know, breaking things off. Like, you were lying for 5 months, and yeah, I don't have any greater advice than, you know, it may be rock bottom, but you can build things back. Maybe over time she'll want to work with you again and try and understand. Maybe she won't. You've just got to do your best going forward. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for walking away when my sister's flirting crossed the line with my girlfriend? I've had this account for a bit, but I prefer lurking instead of posting. My, 19 male, sister, Haley, 20 female, not real name, is a very open and flirty person. She's never put a label on her sexuality, but she has said she's attracted to everyone. Ever since we were in high school, she'd often flirt with girls I was interested in. She'd also flirt with my friends when they'd come over to hang out. Sometimes Haley would even come into my room without knocking just to talk to them. It was very uncomfortable, and some of my friends even stopped coming over to my house because of it. This made me really angry, and I told our parents, 45 male and 42 female, but they'd always say I'm being homophobic and to leave her alone. So she'd get away with it. A few months after she graduated, she moved out of the house, and I haven't had to deal with her flirting with my friends anymore. 7 months ago, I met my now girlfriend, Layla, 18 female, and we really hit it off. We've been together a little over 4 months. One thing to note about Layla is that she's really shy, so she never voices any concerns until after the fact. Well, I really wanted her to meet my parents, so we set up a quick dinner at a nice restaurant on Tuesday night. Without even telling me, my parents invited Haley, who was almost 30 minutes late. For the better part of the dinner, she would constantly flirt with my girlfriend. She'd given Layla compliments about her clothing, body, facial features, and even offer her number multiple times. My parents would just laugh along with her antics, saying how it's just how she normally is, but I could clearly see Layla was uncomfortable, so I paid my side of the bill and took her home. When we got to her house, I asked if I could spend the night, and she said yes. And that's where I've been for the past few days. My parents and Haley have been blowing up my edit phone, calling me all sorts of names, which has me thinking I was in the wrong. I haven't answered any of my sister's messages, but I told my mom where I am. When I asked Layla about it, she said the compliments were nice at first, but she got uncomfortable. So, am I the a-hole for making a big deal out of my sister flirting with my girlfriend? No, you are not the a-hole. I, in the past, was more of a flirty person. I don't think I am anymore. In my 20s, maybe. And I know a number of people who are very, very flirty, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And they might be flirty with me or other friends because they know they're okay with it. And I think flirty people need to realize that you need to be respectful of other people. And in this case, the sister is not being respectful of both this, young woman that she does not know and is being awfully flirty and forward with, but also isn't respecting you when it seems like you've made it very clear to her that you're not comfortable with this. And frankly, that should enter into the situation at least to some degree, Like, yeah, if you've been with a girlfriend for a while and the girlfriend is a-okay with that kind of flirtiness, maybe some of it could be understandable because, hey, they have fun with it, they're a-okay with it, and, you might not be, so maybe they tone it back a little bit, but you're not completely controlling how they act. But in this case, the sister doesn't know this girlfriend whatsoever. She has no reason to think that this young woman would be okay with this kind of interaction. And she knows that you're not okay with it. It makes you uncomfortable. So, yeah, no, that's just really inconsiderate on her part. And I don't think that you're an a-hole at all. Story 2. Boyfriend of 10 years broke up with me over a game. Okay, here it goes. I was nervous about posting this, but screw it. So, this isn't totally D&D related, but I use dice in my Conan server, so yeah. Anyway, I run a Conan RP server for my friends and I, and it's been going pretty well so far. For a long time, every time I've tried to run an RP server, it has always gone wrong in some way. Somehow someone has had an issue. This time, though, things are different. This time, everyone has been having a good time and getting along, and here's how it started. So back when we were still dating, aka a few weeks ago, I would tell my boyfriend everything. We had lots in common and generally enjoyed each other's company with or without the rest of the friend group as a couple should. For some context, it was a long-distance relationship, and I know what you're going to say, those kind of relationships never work out. Well, we made it work. We made it work for a long time, in fact, for about 10 years almost. You see, I'm disabled, so the fact that a guy could love someone like me, knowing all the BS I've had to deal with and still deal with, was a godsend. We met through a video game. Cringe, I know, but it's not like I can just go out and meet people. Anyway, I would tell him everything, and so would he. We even fell asleep in party chats a few times. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and I started telling him about my RP server. I figured since he likes hearing about my D&D sessions that this would be no different. Boy, was I wrong. So I started telling him about the stuff that had been going on in the game. At first he wasn't interested in joining my RP server, even though another one of our friends wanted him to. The way I run the server is that people would be given the password once they made a character sheet, and that's where this becomes a horror story. Remember how he said he wasn't interested in joining? Well, every so often my friend would ask if my boyfriend was going to join. I would say, no, probably not, until one evening when he decided that yes, he was going to join. I got excited and started yelling at him more about what's been happening in the game. I told him about people's characters and stuff like that. But then it occurred to me and I asked, oh wait, do you have the DLC map? I should have told him beforehand, as it likely would have saved me some trouble, but it completely slipped my mind since we tend to game share. However, had I known what trouble this would cause, I would have done this GA different if I could have. He then proceeded to get upset at me, saying he didn't have the DLC and that he didn't care for it and thought we were playing on the original map. He also said that I wasted his time because he apparently spent half a day working on his character sheet, but it was pointless now, even though all he had to do was get it off me. But no, he threw a tantrum saying that you never told me anything beforehand, just told me to join. Newsflash, nobody was really told anything because it's all self-explanatory on the Discord, so all he had to do was make his character. It also didn't help that I told him that my character had a child with a friend's character. I asked him if he had a problem with it, and he said no, and asked how. It was pretty much the characters got drunk and practiced diplomacy, but it wasn't ERP or anything that fade to black and bad dice roll. Now me, my boyfriend, and this friend in game all know each other, and he's married, so I wasn't doing this to cheat on my boyfriend. We just thought of it as stupid fun, but my boyfriend, however, did not. This incident has taught me to never take what someone says at face value ever again, because even though he said it didn't bother him, it actually did bother him when we talked days later. By that time, he had already thrown in the towel that was our relationship. It was devastating and had me in tears for many nights after. When we did talk it out, however, I found out his issues. I guess I can understand from his point of view, but if he had just told me it bothers him, I could have changed things. I asked him, what now? Because we do still care for each other, and he said, it's your choice. Clearly it's not, because you already made your choice by breaking up with me instead of talking out, but okay. I told him I didn't want it to be my choice. I wanted the feeling to be mutual and said, maybe it's best if we go our own separate arcs, so to speak. For some extra context, remember how I said we were together 10 years? In this time frame, we have already broken up 3 times before this. No, we hadn't seen each other in person, face to face, which should have been a red flag, now thinking about it. I told him that the 3rd time was his last chance, and he's done well up till this point, which is disappointing and sad. My heart goes out to this person. I feel very bad for them because, yeah, I mean, it's hard enough to go out and, meet people in this day and age, even when you aren't, unfortunately, dealing with, apparently, this person has a disability that's going to make it even harder for them to go out and meet people. And, that really sucks because it also can make staying in certain relationships just seem easier than having to find another one. And that's heartbreaking. Because, yeah, if you've already broken up 3 times over these 10 years, and you've never been able to meet face-to-face or anything like this, and this person is acting like that, like this jealousy, and getting upset that you just forgot that it was a DLC. Like, if someone told me that, like, oh, shoot, do you have the DLC because you need that? I completely forgot to mention it. I'd be like, shoot, no, but I understand. Not be like, I spent this time making a character, I'm so upset, how could you? Like, no, be reasonable. And this person sounds like he needs to do a little bit of growing up and maybe just isn't the best. So I don't know. I don't see a great solution to this. I hope the person posting this, is maybe able to meet someone better, someone who treats them correct, right. So, I think you deserve that. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for restricting sister's contact with my daughter after bringing her to a Tinder date? Throwaway. I, 25 female, and my sister Lexi, 26 female, have a pretty good relationship. Lexi is also pretty close to my daughter, Emily, 4 female. Lexi has babysat Emily several times over the years, and there's never been a problem. A couple of days ago, my boyfriend and I were going out to celebrate our 2nd anniversary. Lexi offered to babysit for us, and everything seemed to be set up. My boyfriend and I were planning to be gone for about 8 hours. Unfortunately, about 4 hours into the outing, my boyfriend started to get a migraine. He tried taking his regular medication, but they weren't kicking in that much. I decided to just drop him off at home so he could relax. I sent Lexi a text telling her that I was on my way home early. After I got home, I noticed that Lexi's car wasn't in my driveway. I went inside and called out for Lexi and Emily. They were nowhere in the house, so I immediately called Lexi. After I called her 4 times, she finally picked up the phone. I started yelling and demanded to know where the hell she was. She said we would talk after she got back to my house. About 20 minutes later, Lexi and Emily showed up and I put Emily to bed. After Emily was sound asleep, I exploded on Lexi and told her to start talking. She told me that she was chatting with a random guy from Tinder and he asked her to come over. She said she knew Emily would be asleep the whole time, so she agreed to come over. She said that everything was fine. Emily just ate some snacks and went to sleep in the guy's spare bedroom. I completely lost it. I cussed her out and told her that she was an effing idiot. I asked her how she could do something so reckless. She got mad and told me it wasn't a big deal. She would never let anything happen to Emily. I told her that she had no right to take my daughter to a random guy's home. She said that she could read people and she knew that this guy wouldn't hurt anybody. I told her that she was nuts and she put my daughter in God knows how much danger. I told her that I could no longer trust her and that I never want to speak to her again. I also told her that she's never allowed to see Emily again. She started crying and saying I was overreacting to the whole thing. I told her that I paid her to protect my daughter, not endanger her so she could go have fun. She continued to cry and beg, but I eventually kicked her out. My mom says that even though Lexi messed up big time, I still overreacted. My mom says that I should reconsider separating Lexi and Emily because they're family. Am I the a-hole? So, I mean, this is your child. This is your 4-year-old child that you have entrusted to someone, and you absolutely have every right to be mad and absolutely have every right to decide who this kid is going to see or not see. And Lexi definitely made a mistake. But I feel like it might be a bit much to, like, I would say that I might say, like, hey, I don't want you babysitting her anymore if you're going to make choices like this. Like, that seems absolutely reasonable to me. I would make that decision myself. But to say, like, I never want you to see her again and I never want to speak to you again, Lexi definitely made a mistake, but I don't think it was a malicious mistake. She thought she was, you know, still protecting Emily just fine. She was just chatting with the guy while Emily slept. And while she might have been wrong and a bit clueless about it, I don't think there was any kind of malicious intent. Just a bit of, you know, a mistake. A very foolish mistake. But yeah, I think completely cutting her off and being like, you're out of my life now. That seems like a bit much. I don't think you're an a-hole. I want to be absolutely clear about this. This person is not an a-hole for this. But I think right now emotions are very high and the reaction was perhaps a bit stronger than it needed to be. Story 2. Today I effed up by visiting the wrong house. As a first-generation person in the United States, I've always felt oddly displaced. I didn't fit in the city my parents bought a home in. I was a Mexican-American kid who was learning English in kindergarten with one other kid also in ESL who I bonded fiercely with. That's not accounting for my father's upbringing. He is also a first-generation American, born to, once, an illegal immigrant, but now a married Mexican couple with work visas. My grandfather, who needs his own separate story honestly, worked for one of the big 3 automakers in the US. For reasons unknown to me, he and my family split a lot of their lives between Chicago, Illinois, and a coastal city in northern Mexico. The oldest 3 children were born in Mexico, while the youngest 3, which includes my father, were born in Chicago. For as long as I can remember, I've wanted to visit Chicago and see where my dad grew up. It has always been important for me to understand and experience my family's roots. I've seen and spent time in both of my parents' childhood homes in Mexico. I've seen the parts of their history that remain unchanged and learned more about myself during times when I never felt too confident about who I was. I finally got the chance. My wife surprised me with tickets to Chicago for our anniversary. We made the necessary plans, and off we went. We arrived Saturday, and today was the day we planned to go see the neighborhood my dad grew up in. Well, the lot, anyway. The house was no more. The school he attended and his church, where he and his family spent six days a week, stood largely the same as they did in the mid-60s. His elementary school was now a children's home with a vibrant mural painted on the side in stark opposition to the gray clouds that seemed to blanket everything below them. My dad had given me the address and attached Google Maps photos. The school, of course, looked a touch different, but we had the address and the building was mostly the same. Same with the church. When we made the short drive to the house, I'm not gonna lie, I was getting choked up. I was openly starting to cry by the time we pulled up to the remaining houses near a lot where the house once stood. I noticed that there was also an empty lot with a very similar house next to it across the street. In my emotionally charged wisdom, I rejected that side of the street and crossed the black asphalt to the empty lot before me. I looked down at the sidewalks. Tears are streaming down my face. My wife reminded me that I wanted a photo. We got it done, and we left as quickly as we arrived. You may remember that I mentioned it was our anniversary. We're on our way to Detroit for the second half of our trip. I'm in the car as I type this. On our way out of Chicago, I decided to send my dad the photos. He doesn't answer right away, but he's at work, so whatever. I go ahead and send my brother and his wife the photos with my whole sob story. As soon as I had pressed send, my dad responded. He very gently pointed out that I had been across the street crying at the wrong empty lot. I'm in Indiana by the time I get this useful piece of information. My brother and his wife, well, I immediately text them and tell them of my amazing blunder. I want to die. I briefly considered opening the door to our rental car and letting fate decide. Instead, I started writing all of this down so I could entertain you. I'm now in Michigan and excited to see Motor City, baffled at today's turn of events, and thankfully, I have my wife to laugh with me along the way. I mean, honestly, you might have gone to the wrong lot and gotten your picture taken at the wrong spot, but you were still there. You were still in an area where your father grew up, and I feel like that counts. Just because there's not a picture doesn't mean that you didn't experience something. That's a good thing to remember, folks. Not everything needs a picture. Pictures are nice. I love pictures. I take lots of pictures. But sometimes you can just cherish the fact that, hey, even though you don't have a picture to share with everyone of the correct lot, you were in that spot. You got to experience that. You got to experience other things that your father did, which seems like it's really important to you. So I would just hang on to that. And hey, if anything, like you said, this is just one time that you're passing through. If anything, it's just a good reason to go back to Chicago and experience more of it. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to hide that my moms are gay to my girlfriend's parents? So we broke up. Yesterday, since it had already been days of us not talking, I listened to your comments and decided to ask how she would feel if I told her only one of her parents could go because my moms are uncomfortable around heterosexual couples. She basically laughed and said it's not the same thing because that's a normal couple. That kind of got me, and I asked what's not normal about my moms. Think that's when she saw she effed up with what she said. She said she didn't mean it like that, and just knows it would be awkward and weird because her parents don't like that. Then I asked her if she would feel like that too, and she didn't say anything. We talked for a while, and she still wasn't getting how this would hurt my moms, asking them to hide who they are. Then it got to where she admitted it would also be embarrassing for her parents to know I have 2 moms. And yeah, I wasn't going to take that and told her we're done. Not going to be someone who's embarrassed about my moms or doesn't want others to know. That was it. My friends haven't said anything to me yet, but think I'm just gonna block them out because I don't want to deal with their crap right now. I know I said in my comments I was thinking about asking my moms for advice, but since we're broke up, I'm not gonna tell them why. I only told my moms it wasn't working out with her, so we're done. They don't need to know why because I don't want them to feel it is their fault and they really liked my girlfriend. This would hurt their feelings knowing she was feeling that way. It's not my first breakup, but it still really sucks and I'm feeling sad. It is what it is, though. Thanks for everyone's help and for telling me about your own experiences. Ugh, that sucks. That sucks so much. As someone who, I'm very open about the fact that I am a pansexual individual, but also my mother is gay. And I'm extremely proud of her. It took her a long time to be able to come out. It was a generation and an area where that just wasn't really a thing. And I'm extremely proud of her. And I do not hide that from people. And it sucks to have other people judge you for that. And I'm sorry that this person and probably some of you out there have had to deal with that kind of stuff. But yeah, as much as you might have liked this person and liked the relationship, if they're going to be like that about people that you care about and love, then I think that's a perfectly valid reason to break up. I know some people like to get in like, oh, people are allowed to have differences of opinions and still, still have a relationship. And that's true to an extent, but when it comes to believing in, like, the rights of people and treating people of, different, preferences and sexualities and all that, treating them as equals, I just don't see that as a difference of opinions. That's a difference of morality in my mind. So, yeah, that sucks, but I think you did the right thing. Story 2. Do not try and make me babysit your baby, or I will remove you indefinitely from my life. My brother and his psycho wife asked me the other day to babysit their children, and I said no. I work a 9-to-5 job and do extracurricular stuff afterwards that's more important. To which his psycho wife said, "You're going to babysit your nephew and nieces because we're on our way to your place right now and you're just going to have to effing deal with it." I then replied, "Go ahead and try," and promptly got in my car and left my place of residence and did not come back until later. I already had things to do. The next morning, my neighbor next door said that a woman was at my door with her baby and 2 little girls for an hour and a half knocking on the doors and windows just trying to get in. To which I called my brother and was absolutely livid and told him to not let his wife do that crap. Turns out they wanted me to watch their kids so they could go bar hopping until 2 a.m. and not have me return their children until 10 a.m. I've told him and my family I'm child-free. Everyone seems to leave me alone about it except for this bee. She has legit called me irresponsible and a man-child for not wanting to have kids when I first told my family about it. Why do people have to be this way sometimes? Why? Like, A, not wanting kids, it is not irresponsible or being a man-child. There are plenty of people out there who don't want to have kids. Ya boy included. No kids. I love my niece and my nephews. They are absolutely wonderful, and the times that I see them throughout the year are plenty enough child for me, thank you. And there is a difference between asking, your brother or whatever, to be like, "Hey, would it be possible for you to watch my kids? We really want to go out and do this thing." And if the brother says, "No, I already have stuff going on," that's the end of the conversation. Like, I keep coming back to this in some of these things, but folks, if you have children, it is not everyone else in your life's responsibility to take care of those children for you so you can do the stuff that you did in life before you had children. I know it's very hard having children. I know it takes up a huge amount of your time and is stressful and all that kind of stuff. And you absolutely have my sympathies. And I hope that you can find babysitters who allow you to go out and have some fun because you deserve to still have a life. But it's not other people's responsibility to give you that life. You wanted to have kids, and so sometimes you're just not gonna get to do what you want. I'm sorry. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.